Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. We are excited today to have you for .NET Conference 2020, and it's a community event for Nairobi edition, and we are more than glad to have you today for .NET Conference 2020 event. My name is Wilberforce Seviton. I'm the team leader here at Bunifu, and today I'll be more than that. I'll be your host. It's good for you to know more about us. We are Bunifu Technologies, and we are a software company. Our specialization is on productivity tools, and we currently are active in the dev tools domain. And under dev tools domain, we are active under .NET, where we provide custom controls and components to help .NET developers to craft awesome looking user interfaces in real time. And we'll be able to showcase to you guys what we mean by the controls and component that we provide. So in case you want to know about us, more about us, feel free to visit our website. That is bunifuframework.com. And also you'll be able to see and know more about us. You can also visit our company website, which is bunifu.co.ke, where you'll be able to see more details about us. So today we have lined up an awesome session for you where we'll showcase stuff to do with .NET, .NET 5, and other stuff like the demos, new products we're working on. So stay tuned for a wonderful session that we've lined up for you. And this is more of a follow-up event that was held last month by Microsoft. It's called the .NET Conference. It was held last month in November. And we are actually doing a follow-up of the event where we saw the launch of new features such as .NET 5. We also saw the launch of C# 9, amongst other things. But for us, our interest is in .NET 5 and C# 9. So in case if you missed the conference and you'd like to relive your experience, feel free to go and visit .NETconf.net, whereby you'll be able to see the previous experiences that were shared last month. All right. On our side at Bunifu, we're actually excited to actually see .NET 5 come out because of its possibilities. Being cross-platform is one of the possibilities that we actually see as a big thing that can open more opportunities for us. We're able to create cross-platform applications and stuff like that. So here at Bunifu, since we're making controls and components for .NET, previously we've been doing them for .NET Framework, but following the shift to .NET 5 and .NET 6, we actually adjusting ourselves to the new platform where we will actually uh, put our controls to work with .NET 5 and .NET 6, and our developers will be able to share with you guys what we are currently doing on that. We also understand that there'll be some challenges to do with .NET 5 porting because it was released as a general availability uh, update that is awaiting next year's release of .NET 6, which will have a long term support on the LTS. All right, so we'll actually work with you plus also Microsoft so that we solve those challenges and put our controls properly to .NET 5 and then .NET 6. All right. So back to the meeting now. We've actually lined up an awesome session for you, and we have speakers coming from Bunifu. We have two of our senior developers, and I'll introduce them. First up is actually Wilfred. Wilfred Kimura will be our first presenter, and actually he is a resident software engineer at Bunifu. His passion is design, and he's the one who has been crafting the controls and components that you use. And I can see also part of the attendees today are customers. So Wilfred is the one who has been shipping some of the features which you are currently using. Next up is Kimtoo Flex. Kimtoo Flex is a CTO here at Bunifu. He is actually the creator of Bunifu framework, and he's a full-time awardee of Microsoft MVP. So Kimtoo Flex will take us through some of the sessions and also showcase the new products you're working on. A look at our agenda. We are here for about 2 hours 30 minutes, and we have about 4 sessions. The first one is the state of .NET, which will be carried out by Wilfred, and Wilfred will be able to actually take us through the new updates in .NET 5, and also C# 9, and the direction at which the ecosystem is going. So in case you are new and probably want to learn more about the .NET ecosystem, then you get a chance to learn through that. Then after that, we'll have a session there. We'll actually release Monikers, which is our latest product for data visualization, and Kimtoo will be able to showcase that. After that, we'll have just an up session where Wilfred again will come up and show us what we are doing in terms of the Bunifu framework on WinForms, and also on C# 9. We also have a new kit in the block as a product. It's called Schemata, so you'll get a chance to see a preview of that new product. It's an exciting software product that can help software developers to craft softwares in a very quick manner. So when that time comes, you'll be able to see how you can craft a form in like 20 seconds or even less if possible. Then we'll conclude with a session on Blazor, where we'll actually share our insights on Blazor and what we'll be doing on Blazor in the coming year. So we're in for a very exciting session. Feel free to engage us on social media, follow our handles at Twitter. We have our personal accounts and also at Google Framework account. Also, please use the hashtag .NET and .NET Conference 2020, and we'll be able to retweet you. Also, please leave for us a Q&A. Please leave for us your questions, and we'll actually answer you via the chat. Whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, we'll be able to answer you. All right, so we're actually almost ready to begin our first session, which will be taken up by Wilfred. And Wilfred will be able to showcase for us the state of .NET, what is happening in .NET, and what are the new changes and what are the new plans. So Wilfred, please take it over for the first session.
Great, thanks, Wilbur. That's great. Happy to be here. Happy to know that you guys are here. Finally, you can see the faces behind what we've been working on. So welcome, guys. So let me just share my screen. Right. So .NET and beyond. So this year has been quite an amazing year. We have seen a lot of talk around .NET, what Microsoft has been doing. This year, we have seen a lot of improvements in the tooling and infrastructure in .NET. So we're going to just take an overview and a closer look at what Microsoft has been doing, and we just get acquainted with what exactly is happening. Right, so who am I? My name is Willy Kimura. I am a senior software engineer and a UI UX developer here at Bunifu. I specifically focus on Bunifu framework. I am the guy behind the controls and the components that you've been using. So this is the face behind it. Feel free to check out my website, willykimura.com, my GitHub page, github.com/willy-kimura. You can also check out my blog, which is WordPress, and also check out my latest articles at Medium. Great. So .NET and beyond. We'll take a closer overview of .NET Core and .NET 5. We'll also take a look at the state of .NET, where are we in .NET, what has Microsoft been working on behind the scenes, and what have they unveiled this year. We'll also take a look at .NET MAUI, which is a multi-platform app UI, which Microsoft has unveiled just this November. And we are going to just have a look at what exactly it is and what it's going to be offering to developers going forward. Great. So what is .NET Core? What is .NET 5? .NET Core is a pretty interesting move from Microsoft, considering that we have been having .NET Framework for a while now. Since the unveiling of .NET 1, .NET Framework 1, we we're able to see a lot of improvements in terms of being able to build Windows applications. So what .NET Core is really simply an evolution of what .NET Framework would not have been. In that now .NET Core is able to provide cross-platform support for applications that are built with it. So we'll be able to see, and we're actually seeing a lot of developers now making use of the new APIs that are built in .NET Core to be able to build cross-platform application. We have seen web apps being built. We have seen Xamarin also. We have also seen a lot of cloud applications being built by .NET Core. Unlike its predecessor, .NET Core, .NET 5 is open source. So meaning that .NET Framework wasn't actually open source. So .NET Core 5, .NET 5 and .NET Core 3.1 from version 1 to 3.1. We've seen a lot of open sourcing from Microsoft. We've seen a lot of community engagements and contributions. And so Microsoft saw it fit to be able to have a more extensible framework whereby we are able to see a lot of developers come into play and being able to contribute to what we are going to be using from now onwards. So .NET Core is really open source. You can feel free to check it out on GitHub. Also, .NET 5 is also open source, so feel free to also check it out. All right, so just taking an overview of .NET Core and .NET 5. One of the things, as I mentioned, is that it is open source. So meaning that we also have an open source license, which is MIT and Apache. So meaning that any developer can come into play, can submit their pull requests to the repo. We have also seen a lot of developers being able to contribute to the project. Another thing, and that is actually, this is one of the biggest things, is that it is cross-platform. This is a very different stand from what we had before with .NET Framework, which now involves allows developers to build a Windows application, a Linux application, and a Mac OS simply from one code base. So you can be able to port your application or your web app to work on Linux, Windows, and Mac. We've also seen a big improvement in terms of the ecosystem. Microsoft is envisioning .NET going forward as a unified ecosystem. So this means that we'll start seeing a lot of focus on being able to build Microsoft building one framework that is going to provide all the APIs that are going to be used across all the platforms. So this means that we'll have one framework going forward. We'll no longer hear Microsoft mentioning that they are releasing .NET Core. They will actually be releasing .NET 5, .NET 6, .NET 7, as we're going to see. We'll also have the same tooling, so you don't need to use other IDEs. You'll use the same amazing IDs such as Visual Studio. If you're using VS Code, that is going to be there still. Another big improvement is on lightweight, the performance for .NET Core and .NET 5. So we're actually seeing a lot of tests being done in .NET Core applications. So, for example, you're actually having now faster operations in terms of things like when you're working with hash sets, when you're a guy who works with the JSON serialization in your applications. So that is actually more improved. On Xamarin, we realize that when you're working with renderers, it's more improved in terms of the performance. So that is also a big thing that Microsoft has been able to test out in .NET Core and .NET 5. We're also seeing a lot of modularity. .NET Core and .NET 5 are actually more modular than what we had in .NET Framework for desktop developers and for most of our clients. Something that you realized is we are using a lot of assemblies at the same time. So this time around, assemblies are going to be packaged. It's going to introduce a sort of like a package system that is going to allow developers to be able to just plug in the package that you want to use, remove whatever you don't want to use. So that going forward is going to really help be able to have a more modular architecture for your applications. We're also seeing a lot of deployment improvements. We now have more flexible deployment for .NET Core and .NET 5. For example, now for Informs applications, you can actually build a self-contained application, meaning that your application can now be, when it's targeting .NET Core, .NET 5, you can actually build a self-executing application where you don't actually need to install, for example, .NET Framework 4.5.2 for it to run. So once you package your application, you can actually deploy it as a single exe, and then it's going to run seamlessly on all modern Windows operating systems. We're also seeing a lot of improvements on Docker. So, for example, being able to build, for example, if you're working with microservices, you'll realize that with .NET Core and .NET 5, developers have actually been able to build containerized applications, and then they deploy it on Docker. So that is quite a big turn from what you used to see in .NET Framework. So that with many others is going to actually be able to help developers build those modular, those flexible, and those scalable applications. So what is the state of .NET? What has Microsoft been working on? What have we heard from them? One of the biggest improvements for Microsoft is one, they will be having specific timelines for building release candidates. So for example, in .NET Core 3, we saw it being released in September. One of the big improvements with .NET Core 3 is we saw Microsoft now getting towards WinForms applications and also WPF and UWP. So .NET Core 3 provided support for various APIs that were in .NET Framework. They were now ported to .NET Core 3. So beginning from .NET Core 3, we are actually able to build scalable desktop applications. We're also seeing a lot of we saw also a lot of improvements in terms of designer support. So, for example, in .NET Core 1, 1.1, and 2, what was lacking was drag and drop support for WinForms applications. So this time around from .NET Core 3.1, we have seen Microsoft actually add the specific APIs that were able to help developers build drag and drop applications. So we're also seeing the introduction of long-term support, as you have seen, for example, in Linux distributions, things like Ubuntu. Microsoft is now introducing that concept. So, for example, this year we have had the release of .NET 5, which happened in November. Next year, same time, November 2021, we are going to see the release of .NET 6. That is the long-term support. November 2022, we are going to see the release of .NET 7, which is going to be generally available, and then 2023 it's going to be .NET 8. So that is more of a predictable timeline, and I think that's really quite a big improvement from what we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of mini releases, preview releases from Microsoft. So this is going to at least to help developers prepare themselves adequately for the coming features. We'll also see a lot of predictability in the releases, so that also if minor releases are going to be there, they're going to also ship them. All right, so the state of .NET also. I think one of the biggest things and really that can be mentioned and needs not to be forgotten is the mention of having a unified platform for Microsoft. What we saw before was Microsoft, there was a lot of fragmentation in the .NET ecosystem. For example, if a developer comes, they need to ask themselves, which platform do I use? Do I use WinForms? Do I use UWP? So that no longer will be there. So Microsoft is now trying to unify all these platforms to be able to harness or use one framework, which is .NET 5. So for example, if you have a desktop application, you can actually build one application that is going to run across the different platforms. So for example, what we have seen in Xamarin is we have seen developers come and, for example, build an Android application, an iOS application, and just that using one single code base. So this time around, we're going to see Microsoft focusing that also. We're going to see them now being able to add more richer APIs that are going to be supported across all these platforms. We're going to see, for example, if you have, for example, a Windows utility that you want to build, you can actually target .NET 5, and then you can build that utility to support Windows, Linux, Mac, and even mobile. And that is really an amazing move from Microsoft. For example, things like cloud applications are going to see a lot of improvements in the tooling and the APIs that are going to be added. Xamarin is going to have a big shift. Microsoft mentioning that there is going to be a strategic change as to the things that are going to, for example, the project system is going to change a bit, but not to mean that you're going to overhaul your application fully. So we are going to see a lot of improvements with the new set of APIs that Microsoft is going to introduce in this in .NET 5 going forward. The tooling will also be the same, so you don't need to change your tooling. If you're using Visual Studio, continue using Visual Studio. If it's for Mac, VS for Mac, you can still use it. VS Code, if you're using, if you're building ASP.NET web applications, same case. And also a lot of CLI tools that are going to be introduced. So this is going to really help expand the capabilities of .NET by taking the best of .NET Core and .NET Framework, and then Xamarin and Mono. So that is going to really expand and broaden the .NET ecosystem in the space, to be able to see a lot of developers, for example, guys that have been using JavaScript can actually come into and use Blazor, which is actually a new product from Microsoft. And we're going to see a lot of those changes happening as we go along. Now, I think another one of the biggest things that Microsoft also mentioned is the introduction of a multi-platform app UI. What is .NET multi-platform app UI, or what can be mentioned as MAUI? So MAUI is a cross-platform native UI that Microsoft is currently working on, to be able to allow a developer to build one project with one UI that is going to work across all these platforms. Meaning that now you can actually build, for example, if you want to build a desktop app, you can actually even target a mobile. You can actually deploy it to a mobile, for example, a mobile operating system like Android. So that means that Microsoft will be shifting the focus and the strategy to be able to focus on now being able to have one framework that is going to target all these platforms together. Meaning that now you actually won't need to have different projects for different platforms, like what we currently see in Xamarin. And actually, Microsoft mentions that it's more of an evolution of Xamarin Forms. So that we're going to see as we go along. There was actually a talk yesterday about MAUI, just a stand-up discussion about MAUI, and Microsoft will be giving early previews of the progress as they continue, and we're going to see a lot of improvements from Microsoft. So another thing is we'll be able to deploy an application to multiple devices. So meaning that you can actually deploy your app to the mobile or to the desktop, and that is really a big change. One of the other important announcements that Microsoft mentioned was that it's going to, as from .NET 6, we're going to see a lot of intentionality and improvements in some of the APIs that they are working on. So it's still a work in progress, and we're going to hear from Microsoft as they move forward. I can say that as Bunifu, we are also really interested in this space, and we will actually tell ourselves to be able to support Bunifu UI to be able to work on MAUI. So that is going to be one of the biggest things that we're going to be working on going forward, and I will keep you updated as time goes by. All right, so how does MAUI look like in terms of the project system, and how does it look like really when just having a more closer look? So as you can see here, for example, you have an app called My App. You can see that we can actually specify the target frameworks that are going to be supported. So this is a new project system that Microsoft calls the SDK style project system. So we no longer need to have separate projects to be able to target specific platforms. We have one project, and then you specify what Microsoft calls target framework monikers. So for example, you can actually target .NET 5 iOS, you can target Android, and the desktop. So this means that it's going to be a different shift from what you saw in, for example, in Xamarin, where you have a separate project from a separate platform. So this is going to be a really big shift. And as Microsoft also mentions that you won't need to change your project structure if you're still working with Xamarin. For example, if you want to port your project to .NET 5, you won't really have to change the code base itself, just the structure, and then things are going to work seamlessly. So that, for example, it's going to really be a big shift, and we're actually seeing currently a lot of developers moving their projects to .NET 5, and currently they're still we're actually seeing the progress that it's taking, and we hope to see more from Microsoft. they're still working on the early previews. So feel free to check out the open source project on GitHub. They actually released the open source the project as open source. So github.com/net/mau. So that just get a closer look at it. You can actually just check it out and see the progress of the project. All right, that sums it up for the first session. So hope you've liked it, hope you've been interested, and look forward to hearing more from it. Thank you, guys.